Are you planning to homeschool preschool, pre-K, or kindergarten this year? Well, I'm here to help you. Hi, I'm Brenda from the Homeschool Files, and today we're going to talk about the different ways that you can do it and just some tips and tricks to help you get started. I'm glad you joined me. Okay, so when it comes to homeschooling preschool, pre-K, kindergarten, the first thing you need to know is that it really isn't mandatory in all places. Preschool and pre-K definitely are not mandatory. Some states require kindergarten and other states don't. And what's mandatory in public school might not be mandatory in homeschool. So the first thing you need to know is to check your state homeschool laws, and you can do that at hslda.org. That's Homeschool Legal Defense Association. And you just click on legal and you click on your state, and it will explain all the homeschool laws for you. I'm in Texas. Kindergarten is not required in Texas. So it is the perfect year to start homeschooling because it's not required. You're not going to mess up. And it's just a bonus year with your kid. And then if you decide this is horrible, I hate it, my child hates it, we never want to do this again, you can still put them into school in first grade or in kindergarten, either way. You've got that year at home with them, and it's a great, let's try this out kind of year. I wouldn't give up after 1 year personally, but some people might. And that's a good thing to know. Hey, this isn't for me. It isn't for everyone. Now, if you've got your legal stuff taken care of and you know what's required and what's not, okay? Because if kindergarten is required in your state homeschool laws, then you need to know what is required for you to teach, and you absolutely need to follow that. But if you are doing an unrequired year of kindergarten, then we can talk, okay? First, there are very different ways of thinking, and I'm going to show you a big spectrum. On one end are people who think this way, on the other end, people who think this other way, and you're probably going to fall somewhere in the middle. And I think you'll start to recognize where you are as I talk about these extremes, okay? So the first one is what I'm going to call tiny school. Think little desks, little chairs, little bookshelves, just like a small-sized classroom in your home, okay? You've bought little child-sized furniture. You expect children to work on their letters and their numbers at the tables. Yeah, there's going to be play breaks. Yes, you'll read to them, but that parents that think this way are going to expect that their children are capable of learning letters and letter sounds, early math concepts, learning to write their name, just all kinds of stuff like that. Maybe doing simple craft projects. It's just like tiny school at home. And so you might expect in this kind of thinking to see a schedule, circle time, which is kind of a traditional school thing. You might see a time for reading, a time for table work. It's just a pretty structured day, and a lot of learning is expected, okay? Curriculum companies cater to this model. Okay, it's very easy to find homeschool curriculum for your 3 and 4-year-old, where there's a lot of workbooks and worksheets and table work to do, some crafts and art projects, yes. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of this, because let me tell you what, some kids are ready for this. Some kids want this. They really do. If you have the kind of kids that aren't, then you're probably thinking, really? No, there are. There are kids that just absolutely thrive with that kind of schedule and that kind of setup. So curriculum companies are very easy to find, even workbooks for 3-year-olds, okay? Some kids are ready. That is one extreme. But if you have a child that isn't ready for that, then it's going to make you and your kid feel like a big failure to try to follow that model, because if you're not ready, it's not going to work well. All right? That's one end. On the far other end of the spectrum, remember, probably most people are going to fall somewhere in the middle, but on the far other end of the spectrum is what I'm going to call let them play. So over here we have tiny school, and over here we have let them play, okay? This kind of thinking is associated with a book called Better Late Than Early by Raymond Moore. And the thoughts I'm sharing with you today are not from that book. It's been 20 years since I've read that book, but that's just kind of the line of thinking goes along with the book like that, okay? And the thinking is school can wait. Play is learning, okay? Children learn best when they're not stressed about age inappropriate activities. And I agree. I agree. It can also be stressful when your kid is not reading yet at the age of 8. And if you take this relaxed approach, that might happen. But guess what? You're not going to be able to tell later down the line which kid read at 4 and which kid read at 8. And I'll give you an example of that I always told my parents when I was a public school teacher, and they all always said, oh, yeah, that makes sense. My children all learned to walk at different ages. My first daughter walked at 11 months. My next daughter didn't walk until 15 months, and my last child walked at 9 months. And guess what? All of those were in the range of normal. There wasn't a problem with any of them. Now, today, if you looked at them at age 25, 21, and 13, do you think you could tell me which was the one that walked first and which was the one that walked last or middle? No. They all know how to walk just fine. Children learn to do things at different ages and stages, and we can't compare them to each other. We are just so used to comparing our homeschools to the public school calendar. We're just used to what we know. And in public school, kids learn to read in kindergarten and first grade. Well, it used to just be first grade, but now it's kind of bumped itself back. And if your kid isn't doing that, you're like, oh gosh, we're behind, And other people can begin to doubt your homeschool as well. Like, why isn't he doing this yet or that yet? My kid's doing this or that in public school. It is hard. When you take that relaxed approach, you might find that they do things at a different time frame, but don't worry, they will get there. As long as you're diligently teaching, they're going to get there. Okay. So we're just used to that. When I student taught first grade back in 1992, 93, there was a first grade teacher there who was just about ready to retire. And she said when she first started teaching, all of the first grade kids who came to her had never been to daycare, never been to school, usually never even to kindergarten because kindergarten didn't even used to be a thing in our state. They had been home with mommy, and then they came fresh from home to first grade. They didn't know their letters or their letter sounds. They couldn't write their name, nothing. She said today, well, in the 90s, she said now in first grade, kids have been in daycare or preschool or some type of program like that since birth nearly. And they come to her, they already know all that. They already know all that. They know quite a lot. And they just got to take off with where they are. They just take off reading and all that stuff. But they weren't at home with mommy just playing and doing things. So if you compared a kid who has been, in some type of learning program from birth and a kid who's been let play and has never even seen a worksheet, you're going to see a big difference if you compare them to each other. But in a few years, you won't see those differences. Okay? It's just where they're starting from. So we're not going to worry about that, all right? When I was in college, my degree is actually in early childhood education. And when I was in college, we were taught so much about developmentally appropriate practice. There is a book called the DAP, Developmentally Appropriate Practice. That's for early childhood, and that is birth to 8 years old. And it was like the Bible. I mean, we highlighted, we tabbed, we read, we all the time used that developmentally appropriate practice book. We had to go out to preschools and daycares and observe for hours and then mark down in the developmentally appropriate practice book what we saw them doing that was developmentally appropriate, what wasn't developmentally appropriate. They acted like this was the thing that ran the world. But when I got into public school teaching, nobody talked about the developmentally appropriate practice book at all. Nobody worried about it at all. Because in the real world, I'm sorry to say that decisions are based on testing and money, not what's best for children. Okay? So we're not going to look at the public school system to compare where our kids should be. We're not going to do it because they are not most of the time. And their teachers are trying their best, don't get me wrong. But just saying the school system as a whole is not set up to be developmentally appropriate, okay? We know that, so we're not going to compare to that, all right? If you want to have a tiny school in your house and your child is ready for that, go for it. If you want to let them play, go for it. Because as long as you keep going, they're going to get there, all right? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with either of those, but most people fall in the middle. And that's what we want to talk about. So if I had to choose a middle, I would call it guided play. And this is kind of how I ran preschool, pre-K for my two that I homeschooled. My oldest daughter actually went to public school and private school for a few years before we started homeschooling, but my other two were home always with me, and we were in the middle for sure. And let me tell you about guided play a little bit. That means that you have put some thought into the day ahead, okay? And that you have a plan, at least for a few hours of the day, all right? You're not just waking up and handing them the iPad and drinking your coffee and going, wonder what's going to happen today. Okay. We have to actually put some thought into the day. So we don't need okay, honey, it's time to start homeschool moment in our day. That's not what we need to do when they're little. We don't need to do that. But this is the time for you to start establishing routines that are going to help so much when you do start a more formal homeschool situation, okay? So the first thing you need to do is have a morning routine. You probably do have a morning routine, but I'm talking about having a consistent and more structured homeschool routine. Don't get scared because I said the word structured. I'm not saying you have to follow the clock and set timers and all of that, but let's do the same things every day. When they wake up, let's eat breakfast, get dressed, have a little TV time, whatever you're going to do it in the same order. Do it the same way every day, okay? Have that morning routine so that when you say, okay, it's time to turn off the TV, then they know, all right, now the morning is over and it's time to start the next activity. That's kind of like your marker for them. If you start doing it this way every day, they'll get it. All right, so you do your morning routine, all the things that you need to do, and then it's time to start. So what you're going to do is maybe just start out with a little bit of playing. I call it invitation to play. All right. If you Google invitation to play, you're going to find a lot of really cool ideas. It can also be called scattering, and you can look that up as well. But it's when you set out some purposeful things that they might be interested in doing, okay? So maybe it's as simple as I'm planning on playing blocks with them today. I didn't have time to get anything ready, so I'm going to go into the playroom with them, and we're just going to build with blocks for a little while. And I'm going to be mindful of my vocabulary. Oh, wow, look how tall your tower is. Mine is so short, and yours is so tall. I wonder if yours is taller than your Stitch stuffed animal. Let's put Stitch up next to it. Oh, which one is taller? Mine is shorter. See, I'm just working on vocabulary. Okay. And measuring. You're working on measuring too. It's not just mindless playing, it's playing with purpose. Okay. Guided playing. All right. You have to take their lead. If they say, I'm done with blocks, okay, you can't keep pushing it. They're done with blocks. Move on to the next thing. But try to be mindful of talking to them and using vocabulary. Try not to be on your phone. I didn't have that problem when my older girl was in preschool. We didn't have really phones that did that much back then. It's much worse now. It's much worse. And I struggle with phone picking up too. I struggle with picking up my phone and looking at it. I do a lot of work on my phone. And so once you're on your phone to do something legitimate, then it's easy it's so hard. It's going to be hard, but you have to really be mindful to be present with your child for that time that you've allotted. It's so, so important. Okay. TV off. Distractions off. Hey, if you've got more than one kid, they're going to start playing together, and that's great. Let it go. They're going to learn from each other as well. So you don't have to be in their business trying to play with them all day, okay? Just play with them a little while. Be purposeful. All right. Think about different things you can leave out. Let's say your child is interested in construction vehicles, okay? Let's say they're really into like bulldozers and all that. All right. So you can set up a Play-Doh thing. Look up invitation to play, and you can make some brown Play-Doh that looks like dirt. You make it with coffee. It smells really good. Make some brown Play-Doh, and they can run their little toy construction vehicles through that, and just make a learning activity. And then, hey, we'll read this book about construction vehicles. And look, you just did some school. Really, in preschool, pre-K, it's that easy. It's that fun, okay? You have a little bit of an older kid and you want to get some letter work in. Hey, that's great. They need to learn their name. You don't have to make them sit down at the table and copy their name 10 times each. Let's go outside in the backyard. You have a wooden fence or the side of your house. Dip a big paintbrush in water and have them paint those letters on the fence. You can help them do it. They can paint with you, and you can say the names of the letters as you paint. Here's a K for Kyle, and you can just practice letters that way. You can use letter cookie cutters and make some cookies of their name, and say the letter names. There's so many activities, so many ideas. Hit up Pinterest. You'll find so much things to do. Every day, kind of have a purposeful activity in mind to do with them. Just a little bit in the morning. That's really all you need to do then, okay? Now, there are times when I had great plans and then my second daughter would walk in and she'd be like, I want to play dollhouse. And she would just walk away from me. And I'm like, I had all these plans. It's okay. Let them go. Let them go play. They already have it in their mind what they want to do that day, and that's okay. I'm like, pre-K is not mandatory. I'm not going to make you come in here. I did not make my kids do school, really, even in kindergarten. First grade, you don't have any choice at our house. First grade, when mom says, come and sit down with me, we're going to do some school now. There is no choice. It is mandatory. But before that, not always. I didn't make them. Okay. So lots of letter fun, lots of fun things you can do. I just wanted to let's make sure I covered everything I wanted to cover with you. Yeah, follow their lead. Okay. All right. So I just wanted to give you some resources. Okay. So if you are looking for a little more structured, okay, then you might want to look at Carissa's Taught School posts. Okay. And that can be found at 1+1+1=1.com. Yeah, I'll check that and I'll put that in the notes. And you can check out her blog. All of her kids are much older now, like maybe completely grown. But when they were younger, she had Taught School, and it was so, so fun. I got a lot of great ideas from her through the years. All right. There's also a very old website I'm going to send you to, and you're going to be like, wow, when was this website made? And it's called letteroftheweek.com. And it's got some great ideas. I got really good ideas off of that. Lots of free resources there. I do like a theme. I remember with one of my kids, I did just like, okay, we're doing the letter P. And we had a poster board that I would put the P on, and we'd talk about the letter P, and then we would read books about pigs, and I would just think of anything that starts with a letter P. Penguins, pigs. What else could we do? Pink, and we just did activities around the letter P for the whole week, or maybe 2 weeks. I remember she was painting with pink paint with a pig. And we were painting the letter P, and her pig was all rolling in the paint like it was mud, and we were painting the pink P. I mean, just lots of really fun things. It sounds easy, and it is. If your kid is in kindergarten and you need to do a little more, you can lean more toward that letter work and that math work. It doesn't all have to be worksheets, although it's okay to introduce those, especially if you have one of those children that are ready, okay? So bottom line, pre-K, preschool, kindergarten can be so much fun. It's a great time at home with mom. Lots of learning can take place. You just need a little bit of structure to your day. I talked about a loose structure in one of my scheduling videos. I'll put that on here so you can look at that, about how to plan just kind of around your meal times so that you learn to have that good structure of the day. The most important thing you can do in these years is to make sure that they're minding you and listening when you call their name, so that when you start school, they know to listen and you don't have to start all over with discipline. Just work on that right now and have a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining me.